Hello everyone. I'm saying hello from indoors on the farm today. We've had a blast of winter come through a few days ago. We got just over a foot of snow, which is quite a lot of snow for us. It shuts down our cities because we aren't equipped to handle that much snow in such a short amount of time. So my kids were home from school for 3 days, and now in true West Coast fashion, the rain has come back and everything is turning into slush. So I've been feeling a little cooped up indoors, and I've been really missing my fresh flowers. In one of my last videos, we talked about using color to plan cut flower fields. And today I wanted to dig a little deeper into one of my absolute favorite colors to grow for a cut flower garden, and that is the color peach. Not because peach is a pretty color, although I think it is, but because peach is a very specific type of color that is so helpful, whether you're growing a cut flower garden for yourself or whether you're a farmer florist growing some crops for finished products. So today I want to share with you about why peach is so useful in cut flower gardening. We're going to look at some beautiful bouquet palettes that incorporate peach in different ways. And I'm going to share with you some of my favorite tried and true peach cut flowers to grow. So peach is one of those colors that is a chameleon in color palettes. It blends really easily with many colors, and it is a fabulous bridge color. A bridge color is a color that unites two separate colors together, or in other words, it helps to bridge the gap between two other colors. And the reason why peach is good at doing this is that it's not quite orange and it's not quite red or pink. Rather, it's an in-between color. It's a mixture of orange and yellow and red and white. Some people would describe peach as a pastel orange with red or pink, and others would say that it's closer to a dirtier shade of terracotta, somewhere between the pinks and the oranges. So suffice to say, peach is subject to many interpretations, and it comes in many different hues or versions. But what they all have in common is that they fall somewhere in the warm red-orange part of the color wheel, and that they are in an in-between type of color. And this is what makes peach-colored flowers so versatile for us flower lovers. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I am very motivated by time savers in the garden. Methods to save time when we're harvesting and when we're making, but also flowers that save time in various ways. And peach color flowers are one of those things that saves time and it saves space. And I know that I'm limited on both time and space, and I imagine most people are at least limited on one of those things. So colors with versatility like peach are huge because they can do double duty. They can fit just as easily into a pink bouquet palette as they can into an orange bouquet palette. So if from one single crop we can have multiple ways of using that same flower, that's pretty amazing. All right, so let's look at the different ways that peach can work for us in different color palettes. I've combed my archives for some examples for you today. I've tried to make this list fairly comprehensive, but we don't want to be here all day. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. My hope is that these examples give you some inspiration and maybe some new ways of looking at peach. So we're going to start off with maybe the most obvious start here. This one has a lot of peachy tones going on. There are some corally tones going on in here, but because it's more tone on tone, it's more one color. It's a soft and romantic palette. This one could even be made a little brighter and a little bit more romantic by the addition of some whites in here. So you can see we even have some yellows worked in, but the focal color in these is these soft peachy tones. Now we've got some more orangish palettes. Some of these might be more analogous palettes. Now you've seen this one before. I have a video where I make this one. I would consider this an analogous palette connecting from orange to red to purple. There are some fun color connections going on in this one. One of my favorites is the way that salmon zinnia is connecting the peach dahlias with the soft blush anemones. So here we have an analogous palette which goes from almost a dark purple burgundy red all the way over to the peach. So the fun thing about this one is that the peach tones, which is in the zinnia there and in the snapdragons, is on the exterior of this palette. It's not acting as a bridge. A lot of the ones I'm going to show you, the peach is acting as a bridge. So this is an interesting one because the peach is really on the exterior of this color palette. It's the reds that are the bridge in this color palette. Here's a beautiful one. You can see the peach in the dahlias. This one almost has citrus hits with those limes in there. This is a fairly analogous palette with the yellow coming in on this one. And on a similar note, these also have a really peachy feel. You can see some hits of bright yellow in here and the whites to lighten it up. These were actually made for Thanksgiving. And some more here. Now we're going a bit more into the bright oranges. This is a fun one to look at because we have some of the pinkish brownish sedum in here. So this peach dahlia is really acting as a bridge in this one between the oranges and then the pinks in the sedums. Here's another one showing how pastel some of these tones are. Pastel is a color that has had white added into it. So when we're putting white in these ones, it blends really well because there is a white in these pastel peach zinnias. All right, here we have peach right at home in orange, in an orange palette. This is a great example of where peach can be incorporated and still give us a summery orange look. Here's a crazy one. This one is very yellow. I just wanted to show this one to you because you can see the hits of coral pink in here, in the petunias and in the honeysuckle. And they're tying in with this base flower. This is what the color story was built off of, is this little nasturtium here with the little corally red throats. Sometimes that's a fun way to build a color palette, is to just build it off of a particular flower and what is going on in that flower. Dahlias are really fun for that because they tend to have a lot of different hues going on when you really look closely. So that can be a really fun way to build a color palette, and it can lead you into some maybe color palettes that you never really considered before. All right, so those were some instances in which peach was right at home in orangey palettes. Now I want to show you peach in some pinky palettes. All right, so this was actually a batch of fall bouquets. So this is a fun alternative to a fall palette. Also a way that you can sneak pinks out the door in the fall. The key flower in this palette is this rudbeckia here. It has apricot on the tips of his petals, but more in the middle is a burnt reddish color. So this together makes a peachy tone, and it's tying in with these caramel ferns and the colors in these sedums. And here's peach with pink. I wanted to include this one because this one is more of a magenta pink in here and just kind of showcases how peach can also pull into a more vibrant palette. This one is a really fun example because this one takes into account the color of the bowl. So in this one, the feature flower is the echinacea here. And the funny thing about echinacea, even though it's a pink flower, it has this golden orange coppery colored center. So in this arrangement, I worked in these rudbeckia here, these peachy colored rudbeckias, to tie in with the oranges. And the orange also ties in with this brass copper colored bowl. Here it is again in different lights, so you can really see the peach tones going on here in the rudbeckia. And it's also aided by these peachy honeysuckles. All right, so now we're going in for some contrasting or complementary color palette. So the complement of orange is blue. So in this one, we're seeing the peachy orange dahlias and the peach colored amaranthus, contrasting here with the bluish purple status, as well as the little bit of blue eryngium here. Here's another contrast. This is a much softer contrast, a very fun color palette where we've got the lavender blues and the peaches and hits of yellow. So this would be a split complementary palette. Here's a fun one. This is actually one that I entered into a contest this fall, and it was placed in the top 12 and got People's Choice Award with Northwest AIFD chapter. I wanted to include this one because at first glance, this looks like a complementary palette of blue to orangey red. But when we stop and look a little closer, we see that there's actually true orange tones in here, and that there's peach worked in, and it's tying those brighter red tones. You can see it here. This is a tomato. Here's some red marigolds and a burnt orangey red rudbeckia. So the peach tones in here are really acting to pull this whole entire palette together. This is a beautiful palette. I loved these bouquets. This is a great example of soft muted tones. We've got some soft purples in here with these peach rudbeckia and pink sweet peas. All right, I've got a couple more examples. These are more to show peach acting as a bridge color in a palette. This is a bouquet that I entered in the Hafna Wedding Celebrations Bridal Bouquet Competition. So the premise for this competition was that you were sent a box of tropical flowers. You didn't have a choice as to what types or colors you got. And the goal was to make a beautiful bridal bouquet. You were allowed to incorporate other flowers. So of course, I saw it as an opportunity to try to showcase West Coast garden flowers combined with the beauty of the tropical flowers. So what I ended up getting shipped to me in terms of colors were baby pinks and greens, orange with a little bit of red, some dark burgundy ferns. So this is a great example of where peach can come in. Peach in this palette is uniting the reds, the pinks, and the oranges. It's softening the overall color palette, and it's bridging all of the colors together. This is a stunning dahlia. This is Labyrinth Dahlia. It is multi-hued, so it's even able to pull in some yellows. Here's another great example. The kind of two main colors in this design are these orangey peaches and these lavender purples. And you can see here, this is a Castle Drive dahlia, and it's sitting in here and it's tying the purples and the peachy oranges together. There's some echinacea in here as well. That's really helping to sort of pull that all together. So this is a great example of bridge colors, giving us the steps that can combine two outline colors together. So here are some of my favorite tried and true peachy colored flowers to grow. Some of these might lean more into the apricots or into the corals. Some of them may be more saturated, shaded, or tinted. Shaded means that they have more black pigment in them. Tinted means they have more white, so they're going more into the pastels. But all of them exist in that wonderful in-between space that we talked about between the reds and the oranges in the color wheel. So the first one is Queen Lime Peach Zinnias. Zinnias have one of the things that I love best in a cut flower, and that is that they are cut and come again. I can go to the effort of planting it and waiting for it to bloom, and then when I cut the blooms, it signals the plant to produce more blooms. I don't know what more you could want in a cut flower, so I love, love, love anything that is a cut and come again. As a side note, I really love the Queen Lime series just in general. They have those muddy tones that make them so versatile in multiple palettes. Another zinnia that works really well, it's a bigger one than the Queen. It's Bernari's Giant Salmon. If I am growing a Bernari's, this is the Bernari's that I will grow. It's a really great, clean, peachy color, and it is a fun one to work into purples as an alternative to a full contrast palette like a purple orange. Orange Potomac Snapdragons. So Potomacs are a great one for warmer summertime growth with longer day length. That's what they were developed for. You can treat Potomacs as a cut and come again. I alternate between doing that and just succession sowing them every few weeks so that I just have a continuous supply and I'm not having a gap in my bloom time. If you look at it, it's actually a two-tone bloom. It's got orange and it's got pink. But those two colors together, which make peach, they make it really useful. I can use it in pink bouquets. I can use it in orange bouquets. It kind of can go flip-flopping both ways because it has both colors in it. Here's another great cut and come again, the apricot colored straw flower. This is one of my favorite straw flowers to grow because it's not as saturated as a lot of them. This one is super useful. I love it fresh and I love it dried. And that's a bonus with straw flowers. You can also dry them and enjoy them in the winter as well. Salway terracotta celosia, another one that you can dry. You can see it here in these bouquets. It's a great shape and texture. Okay, I know I talk a lot about not growing seed mixes. This is an exception. Summer pastels achillea, they are super handy. I have a couple different mixes. And the summer pastels mix has everywhere from apricot to more soft corally kind of colors. They tend to be in between-ish kind of colors, and they work well in a lot of palettes. I'll even be able to mix them as I'm making my market bouquets in batches. I can kind of mix them in because they're all in the same sort of color family. Another one that came in a mix, is the echinacea that I got in the Cheyenne Spirit echinacea mix. There is one in particular in here. It's actually really corally, and as it ages, it gets to be a softer, more muted, peachy color. It's just lovely. One thing I love about echinacea is that you can use them petaled, or if the petals are damaged or the petals are wearing out, you can de-petal them, and then you get these amazing orange cones. All right, one of my absolute favorite cut flowers to grow is the amaranthus, and there is a corally colored amaranthus that is just absolutely perfect. It's the Coral Bells amaranthus. This one works so great in so many different color palettes. Make sure you pinch your amaranthus or you're gonna end up with super huge blooms, which maybe someone like me who's into design will enjoy working with. But if you're wanting them for in your house or to mix into bouquets, you want the smaller stem, so make sure you pinch your amaranthus. Let's just enjoy this little guy on this QIS apricot status. I've grown status for many years. It's a fantastic, productive cut and come again crop. I just got apricot status in last year and it was a game changer for me. Status is easy to grow, it's cold hardy. If you're having trouble germinating your status, I've noticed that they like things a little drier. So if you crack the humidity dome open on those ones, let a little bit more ventilation in, it can really make a big difference. This is one of my favorite viewpoints in my cottage cutting garden. You saw this Rudbeckia a few times in the color palette examples. So this Rudbeckia is Sahara mix. So any of the peachy Rudbeckias that I was pulling into those palettes were from this mix. I'm not going to be able to have time to ID all of the different peach flowers that you were seeing in there because I just wanted to highlight my favorite ones here. So if you have any questions about any of the other ones, what they are, please feel free to just ask me in the comments and I can get back to you. All right, and then I want to mention some of my absolute favorite flowers, which are dahlias. The Snowho Doris dahlia. If you've seen my video on Dahlia Vase Life, you'll know that ball type dahlias are really the best for retail work. Snowho Doris dahlia is awesome. It's also kind of moody. It depends a little bit on the weather as to what you'll get in color. The next one is Ferncliff Copper. This one is one that I do use for retail work, just keeping in mind it's not a ball dahlia, so your vase life expectation on this one is more like 5 days. It's super versatile. It's a nice, gorgeous size bloom as well, so it has a more special look, and I use this one a ton. Rounding out the top 3 is a dinner plate dahlia. You saw this one earlier. This is Labyrinth. She's the one with the multi-hues. She's super versatile. A gorgeous garden flower, a really good growth habit on this one. She also performs quite well in the vase and is great for bringing in the home or if you do event work. The key with the Labyrinth dahlia is to be harvesting at the right time. So again, if you check my video on Dahlia Vase Life, I actually show when I harvest this one. There are many, many more worthwhile peachy colored flowers that I couldn't mention here. A few more that I grow that you might spot in some of my photos and some of my videos are Calendula Orange Flash, a really unusual hyacinth called Gypsy Queen, and one of my favorites, Dalmatian Peach Foxgloves. And of course, when it comes to dahlias, the options are almost limitless, and I have many more peachy colored dahlias that I would love to have time to mention. Maybe I can do that on another video. In the meantime, I'd love to hear which peachy color flowers are really enjoyable and useful for you. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments and I can get back to you. And lastly, if you would do me the huge favor of hitting like on this video and subscribing to my channel, it is so, so helpful to me. Thank you so much and see you next time.